Hello, this is the Captain Paxo, and this is, well, some people probably might not like this, because this is going to be a complainy video. And it's going to be me complaining about the armor system in Dark Souls 3, because it doesn't make any sense to me. This build that I'm currently running, it's a quote-unquote tank build. I say quote-unquote because it doesn't do much tanking. It does about as much tanking as my quality build, which, you know, uses cloth armor. And this build uses, like, some of the heaviest armor in the game. I mean, the Exile armor, for crying out loud. It's like one of the heaviest sets in the game. It makes your character look like a goddamn bear. And I take maybe one less hit from an attack that compared to my quality build, which again is wearing cloth armor. And I am fast rolling, but that's because, you know, I've put in, God, how much have I put in? I've put in like 20 points. I'm on 30 vitality with the Ring of Favor, and I think Ring of Havels as well. And I'm at like 69.9% encumbrance, which is kind of ridiculous. What do I get for 69.9% encumbrance? Oh, I get 150 damage redux. Well, I will do when I get to like soul level 100 or whatever. And I get like 26% damage absorption. Now, if we compare this to my quality build, when she's level 100, she will also have 150 damage redux, but she'll probably only have like 20% damage absorption. So I've put in like 20 points, 20 soul levels into vitality, and I get like 5% damage redux out of it. That's 20 soul levels. 20 soul levels for in a defensive stat that's like pretty much sole purpose is to increase your defense. You know, vitality is meant to increase your defense like no other stat. You know, it's meant to allow you to wear super heavy equipment like the Exile armor that again increases your defense like nothing else. And yet, like 5% damage redux out of all that? Is that worth it? I can't see that being worth it. Can someone just like tell me why a vitality gouge build would be viable? Because I tried making a Havel build in Mugen Monkey the other day. I had the Prisoner's Chain ring on, so that increases my vitality by 5. But I ended up with 51 vitality. You know, this is in the full Havel set: Havel's Great Shield, Dragon Tooth, and Side Talisman. You know. So I ended up with a total of 51 vitality, and I also had the Ring of Favor +2 and Havel's Ring +2, and I ended up at 99-point-something% equip load. If I removed 1 point in vitality, I would have gone over 100% equip load. And what do I get for putting effectively 51? Well, actually, it'll be like 35 soul levels. Yeah, like 35, 36 soul levels into vitality. Well, I get 150 damage redux and about 27% guard absorption, or damage absorption, sorry. So in comparison to my quality build again, for putting an extra, like, 30 points in vitality, I'm gaining 7% damage reduction. 7% for 30 soul levels. I'm not even sure if that reduces the amount of hits it takes to kill me by 1. I'm not even sure if it does that. It might do, but I can't tell. It's so insignificant. 7%? That's tiny. It's like, a weapon does like 400 damage, you know? So 1% of that is 4, times that by 7, you know, that's like, what, 28 damage? I'm reducing their attack by 28 damage in comparison to my quality build. And that's if they do flat 400, and we know most weapons do like 450. So, is it, like, in this situation it definitely survived me. It definitely helped me, but this situation is very, very rare, you know, especially in like a duel environment. And again, like, is like 30 points into vitality really worth it when I could put 30 points into strength or dexterity and defeat my opponent in like possibly even 2 less hits than I would if I didn't? I don't see why you would ever choose to put points into vitality other than a necessity to be able to like medium roll, if that's what we're calling it, because it's essentially a fast roll. But it's like, why would you ever choose vitality over a damage stat? It's worthless. I don't see how it could benefit someone at all. Again, 51 in vitality, and I still have the same damage redux as my quality build, and I only have 7% more damage absorption than my quality build, which my quality build wears cloth armor. You can barely call it armor, and yet she can withstand like only 1 less hit. Should be like at least 3 less hits. You know, wearing cloth armor in comparison to a mountain on your shoulders. Don't you agree? It just seems a little bit ridiculous from my perspective. But then again, in Dark Souls 1, your armor made quite a significant difference. If you didn't upgrade your armor and you're wearing like really light armor, you could quite easily get ruined by someone who was wearing like full giants and had completely upgraded it to boot. You know, you would end up having to hit your opponent like maybe 5 more times, probably even more than your opponent would have to hit you. You know, even if you're both using the same weapon with the same damage stats, the armor was just that much of a factor in Dark Souls 1. Yet it doesn't seem to be a factor at all in this game. It's pretty much like Bloodborne, you know, it's practically cosmetic. Only, what's the point in wearing heavy armor, because that just slows you down, you know? And if heavy armor slows you down, then of course you're going to wear light armor. That's the point that I'm making. But then that just neglects like half of the armor sets in the entire game. You know? What's the point in having an option to wear heavy armor if it's not significantly better than like cloth armor that weighs barely anything, meaning you don't have to invest many points in vitality at all? Meaning you can create some very efficient damage builds, you know, because you won't have to waste any points in vitality, which at this point I think is the most useless stat in the game. This vitality is the resistance of Dark Souls 3, and anyone who played Dark Souls 1 knows that the resistance was something that you never leveled, because it literally did nothing in comparison to other stats. Well, it didn't literally do nothing. It increased your bleed resist, but just leveling up and leveling your dexterity increases your bleed resist. So resistance as a stat was just completely redundant. Well, vitality in this game is completely redundant, because you don't need to wear heavy armor in order to have good defense. You could wear like the lightest armor in the game and still have a similar level of defense as you do when you're wearing like super heavy armor, like I am in this video. And it makes me just kind of want to just delete this build, or delete this character, because the defense has hardly served me well at all. And I'm using an ultra greatsword because I was like, hey, I want to try this out because I'm meant to be like a super heavy build. I'm going to try and take advantage of the hyper armor and trade hits really, really well. Well, no, I won't. Maybe in PvE, but not in PvP. Doesn't work like that. Ultra greats are just not good weapons in PvP. I'm sorry, they're just not great, especially in random invasions. If your opponent has half a brain or knows anything about ultra greats, it's going to be really hard to land any hits on them because they're going to hit you out of your hyper armor. It's just not going to be fun, and you can't really tank that well because the armor that you're wearing is about as effective as cloth armor. So I don't see the point. Why would I ever raise vitality? It's a worthless stat to me. I don't care for it. I don't know. Well, I do know how they could fix it. They could simply fix it by giving heavy armor a defense bonus over lighter armor, you know? And I mean a significant one, not just by like 7% that barely helps you at all. But I mean, like, I don't know what numbers should be changed, but I feel like heavy armor needs to be given some love. Because right now, vitality is the resistance of Dark Souls 3. But then I'm not really a pro in Dark Souls 3, nowhere near. In fact, I'm getting a little bit fed up of the whole gank situations, you know, just running across like 2v1s, 3v1s, whatever. And I don't particularly care for the arena, but that's another topic for another day. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you next time in this unfortunate misery fest at the moment.